All right, there we go. So here is what we're going to be covering today. I just did the intro, and we're going to have a special guest from Roblox Education, Genevieve Johnson. You've heard her speak, yes, and we'll be introducing Roblox. And then we're going to roll up our sleeves and start building our first Roblox game with Matthew Cheng. And lastly, I'll be introducing free resources that can help you develop a complete game. And I'll also go over the competition and what the prizes are. All right. And we have a question from Cheryl. What about the Lua coding language? Will we be learning about it? And I'm sure Matthew wants to probably answer that, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Take a look at it.
That was a simple question. Yes, we will be programming in Lua. Yep. And before we begin, I want to make sure that you have Roblox Studio installed on your computer. It has to be a Mac or PC, so you can follow along later. If you haven't done so yet, please go ahead and install from the link. I will plug in that link in the chat window. And that URL, it's roblox.com/create. So you can also search for that. So once you go to the website, you'll see a gigantic button in the middle. Press that, and that will get you started on the download and installation. So a quick note on who we are. So we're Popfizz Computer Science. We're an all-in-one CS education platform for schools and families. We're endorsed by the College Board, CSTA, and Code.org, and are used in about 1,500 schools across the US and beyond. We've had many parents asking if there's anything that their children can take on their own. And so we're excited to announce that we are launching Popfizz Coding Club for families this November 1st. So parents, feel free to check it out. And all right, we are going to get started right away. And first up, we have Genevieve Johnson from Roblox Education. Genevieve is currently the senior instructional designer for Roblox. And as you may know, it's the world's largest user-generated online gaming platform. And Genevieve also created STEAM-based learning programs, helping children feel empowered to pursue various career paths in tech and beyond. So Genevieve, are you ready?
There we go. Now I'm ready.
All right. So the stage is yours. Let me stop sharing right now.
Man, you did such a great job introducing me. Usually I have to say a little bit more about myself. So yeah, I'm Genevieve. I work with schools and organizations. And I also just wrote 2 books on Roblox. The first one being Learn to Code with Roblox Lua. The second one being Learn Roblox Game Development. You can buy Roblox Game Development already. Coding is coming out soon. So lots of coding going on. All right, so I'm going to actually share my screen. And just let you guys know, I'm pretty informal when it comes to sharing my screen. I really love seeing questions. If I ask you guys a question, then I'm looking for answers, particularly from the students who are in the crowd. So I'm gonna ask some questions. There'll be some basic questions, and I really want to have a conversation with you guys. So to talk a little bit about Roblox, I want to talk about who's involved in making the experiences that you see on Roblox, about how they're made. And then I'm gonna leave a good chunk of time for some questions and some answers, both from the teachers and like I said, I really love talking to students. So I would really love some questions from students at the end of this. All right, and my first question, like I said, I'm actually not presenting on purpose, just so you guys know, just because I have a bunch of stuff behind it, so it kind of makes it easier. So what is Roblox? We heard some from Jane, but all right. So if I can get some chatter, or if anyone wants to be brave and pop up on mic real quick. I'm sure there's a student somewhere who has an idea of what Roblox is and would love to tell me what they think Roblox is to them. The really important thing to keep in mind, everything that you see on Roblox is actually created by the people who are visiting and playing and socializing on Roblox itself. So we ourselves, we don't really make games. What we want to do is to promote the people who have that creativity and have that drive. Yeah, 7-year-olds, so much fun to play with friends. We play different games. So it's more about, you know what? We realized a long time ago that as adults, we don't know what kids want to play and enjoy and visit. They know what they want. And I will say that the games that I didn't think were going to be successful, wild hits, because kids know what kids want. So that's really the secret of it. So they get to build. So how many of you guys really yourselves are interested in learning either how to code so you can make your own Roblox experiences, or you want to be the person behind the scenes, make the art? We just want to be professional Roblox players and streamers. So you guys, particularly, I know there's some classrooms in here. So um, one reason why I like to ask this question is because a lot of times when I get the answers, I get a surprising amount of people who are like, oh no, it just never occurred to me. I love playing, but it doesn't really occur to a lot of students that they can make something. Sometimes they're like, well, I don't know what I would make a game about, or I don't know what I would make a 3D experience about. And I'm like explaining to them, you can make really experiences that are based on anything that you love. If it's like, if you're a person who is passionate about, let's say, saving the environment or recycling, or you love basketball or horses or music or just hanging out with your friends, then you can make a world based on those experiences and based on the things that you really, really care about. Yeah, so we got like, yeah, 13-year-old son, do you want to be a pro Roblox streamer? You like 6-year-old who wants to make their own. Yeah, you really want to make a game. So anyone out there really can make their own game. And one thing I just tell people is like, yeah, you just have to start doing it. That's really the trick to get going. And you're going to make probably a lot of different worlds in your life. Get other people to play them, see how it goes. You'll learn from that experience and you'll keep making bigger and better stuff. Maybe get some friends to come help you and make it with them. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, but the question is like, why? Why do you guys care about Roblox? Why do you guys want to make games or make worlds? Yeah, they're very interested because it's fun. From Caitlin via Ryan Lee. So your friends can play Roblox. Yep. Or just like a really fun idea. It's fun and and easy to learn. You'll get a lot of that. Like, yeah, because it's fun. And we like doing things that are fun. And when you're taking that fun and you're like, well, it's I had this idea in my head, and maybe you're the person who comes up with adopt me. Like, I don't know, we'll just like adopt pets, or we'll adopt family members, and we'll run around and go to the playground. And I think that would be cool. You can do that, and then you find other people who like that as well. And you see that on Roblox all the time. They're like, I just thought it would be fun to recreate this battle from the Civil War or the Titanic, or I just thought it would be fun to make this city that was based off of ancient Greece or something like that. And no matter what it is that you like, there's someone else who thinks that's fun too, and that you guys can have that shared experience. Other people are like, I want to make Roblox. I've seen lots of people get their start that way, where it's like, well, I really want Roblox. If they're not being handed to me, so I guess I'll figure out how to make my own Roblox. And people have put themselves through college doing that. They've bought themselves Teslas. They have bought their parents' houses. There's even a really great story, CJ Oyer. You can find his story online. He not just put himself through college, he actually started giving his friends loans so they could go to college. So, it's a lot of things that happen. Like, I think when you start with these, maybe what seems like simple answers, like, I just want to have fun, I just want to make Roblox. But even that can take you like on a really incredible journey. You might not end up a professional game developer, but you might end up a professional engineer or working in cryptography. You might, through that love of coding and I would say the engineering thought process, find yourself in a lot of places you might not have otherwise. Or you might just be making games for the rest of your life, and that's a great thing. All right, what type of people create games? And I want to talk about, Jeremiah had a comment there I'm going to talk about in a second. But what do you guys like? Who are the people who make the worlds that you see? What kinds of people are they? What kinds of skills do they have? All types of people. Anyone? All right, Louise and Holly, you got the right answer. All right, give me some like examples. But you guys are definitely on track. That is exactly the right answer. Anyone can make games, all types of people. It's very much the Ratatouille mentality. Anyone can make a game. So one thing I like pointing out is that when you look at those games that you like, yeah, teens, adults, children, anyone can make games. Any age you can start, you can make, and they can be simple or really complex. But when you think about the skills that are involved, sometimes I get the answer like, oh, people who are really good at math. those are the people who make games, or those are the ones that become coding. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I'm dyslexic and ADHD. Like you can sometimes hear it when I talk, like, and I code. I literally just wrote a book on coding. Like it's published. So all kinds of people can become engineers. Sometimes it's, if you should just try things. I never thought I was going to be coding, but what happened for me was I was more of an artist and I kept wanting to make things do things. And the more that I wanted something to happen, like if I wanted someone to step on something and sparkles happened, or if I wanted the story like to progress, or I wanted someone to be able to go on a quest and do this, the more I had to learn how to code. And that actually is what started me coding. But then, as I started working on stuff, I started, I got friends. I'm gonna show you guys some of the stuff that I've worked on real quick, where I've worked on with teams. And the cool thing was like, I got to go back to that art sense in a bit. So this is a world that you guys might have seen. It used to be a template. Oh, you can see I test stuff all the time. But I actually got to design this particular world based on one of my favorite places, which is Zion Park. So I went on a hike and I was like just blown away. It's this beautiful place where the walls are orange and you just like walk through the river of this park. So I actually designed this particular template around my love of that national park and actually of going hiking and going outside. And I also love spaceships. I love spaceships in bright colors. So I got to work with an artist who designed a lot of different colorful things for me. She designed the plants and the flowers. She's actually a really, really well-known artist, Arithia. She went on to do some really great things. And the point of this particular exercise is I kind of have this like space junkyard where people can put together these different parts and they can build their own spaceship out of it. And they can kind of learn about how to scale and put things together. And then they can go on a race to see their spaceship actually fly. So this is one of the worlds that I've worked on. I want to show you guys some other stuff. So this is one where actually I did not create this world. Another artist actually did, but then I got to reuse it and color it and do a lot of code within it. So sometimes I've been more of an artist, sometimes I've been more of an engineer in coding. My goal though is to sometimes work more on music because people don't realize how important musicians are. There's also always going to be a lot of different ways you can be involved in game design, and you should try them all. You should try them all and find out what you like, because it might not be what you expect. Like I went to school thinking I would really love modeling, making the different buildings and stuff, and I found out I really loved coding and animation, and I actually got bored by modeling. So make sure you guys try everything, and then get some friends and you can work on them together. Sometimes you might be one thing on one project and another something else on another project. Let me see how chat's doing real quick. Okay. All right, so just checking on chat. And I also wanted to point out that what's really great about Roblox is you guys are going to learn some really cool, like quick code. And you guys are going to make things like explode, or something like that, or be hurt. You guys are going to do that way faster than you think is possible. But the beauty of Lua is really that you can have, within a few lines, really effective code, like you're going to see in a little bit with Matthew. But you can also take this as far as you want. So we also have like much larger scripts, with professional engineers. A friend of mine wrote this script that goes on for, almost a few hundred lines. In the book that I just wrote recently, this script is like 70 lines. So you can start with really simple pieces of code. We're talking like 5 pieces of code, like, even this much code or that much code, and have really cool things happen. And once you learn how to do that, you can keep building on it and building on it and building on it. Someone in chat earlier mentioned that they made something, but no one really came. That happens. Honestly, like what you need to do though is sort of learn from it and you make something else. You develop a portfolio. You're going to hear the story a lot about, people who make their first movie or their first book. Same thing with, Roblox experiences. Just because you're not successful on the first one doesn't mean that you are not a developer, that you are not someone that's got something really cool to say. I think it's like Brookhaven They said that they had made 5 games before that they never made any money on. I can tell you any game that's on the top sort, that was probably not their first Roblox experience. They built and coded lots of different things before they got that one. So don't be discouraged if like no one plays your first world. That's really, really normal, but you're building a skill set and you're building a portfolio. And like hopefully you go and you make contacts and you learn how to test better, you learn how to make friends. Yeah, Brookhaven is huge. So you look at it and you're like, oh, like they had this, they must have just magically made it one day. That's not really how it works. A lot of all these kinds of things, you have to remember that they did lots of other things before they made Brookhaven. And that's going to be the same of you guys too. And that's great. That's normal. You guys are going to try new things. It's just like science and just like engineering where, sometimes you try something and it doesn't work. So you take a step back, you think about why it didn't work, you think about what you could do better, and you go find new problems to solve. So let's see, what time are we at? So that's pretty much all I have to say, because Matthew later is going to actually take you much more through how to make an actual world. But I do like also showing kind of where you start from. Like everything that I just showed you guys started off in just a base plate. And then from here, you can really start making some amazing stuff really fast, even just by generating some terrain. So this is kind of the last thing I kind of show you guys. So what I love about Roblox again is that you can so quickly have an amazing, unique world. But you can also keep spending as much time as you want on it. So you can spend infinite amount of times and your skills can just keep growing and growing. All right, any questions? So you couldn't remember you made something and you couldn't remember how to post it? So the coolest thing about Roblox, I think the thing is just magical because I worked with so many game engines, is it could be literally Control P, or is it Command P? But anyway, file, you go to like publish, Alt P, that's the one I was looking for. So it's literally Alt P and you publish to Roblox, and it immediately you can publish it, and I can name this best game. It can be on phone, computers, tablets, and I can find this online. And I can share it out. And then if I were to go to, I'm not going to show you my site right now because it's possible that I don't have things that are cleared for being recorded. But if you go to your profile page, you can find the link and then you can give that link to your friends. Yeah, I would say even if you started a game and you're not finished, try to get people in it as soon as possible. Like just show people. When I was going to school for animation, I would get like my mom or my little sister even to come look at what I was doing, because you don't need like, a professional to come evaluate your game. You just want to know if it's fun. Does it make sense? You want to watch how other people interact with it. You can think something is so obvious to you, and then you watch people, they'll drop into your game and they walk completely the wrong direction. You're like, no, you're supposed to go pick up this magical rock over here. So like get people to just like come and play it. And like, so don't worry that like no one's playing your first game. That happens. You just have to keep making more and just keep like building a bigger vision, and like you're building a portfolio. And even at like the high school level particularly, you're building a portfolio that you can potentially show to colleges, or you can show to other people who are making Roblox worlds to show them like, hey, I built this magical castle thing. And then they might be like, cool, this is a magical castle game with unicorns, and we need someone to help us with that. So in order to build, so you do need a Roblox account, both to play and to build. So to play, you can be on just about anything. You can be on, Chrome or Android, Mac, PC, any sort of mobile device. But in order to build, you do have to be on Mac or PC. Accounts are free. It's free to publish. It's free to create. It's free to join a game. The only things that have a small fee tend to be private servers, if the developer charges for private servers, or some things that require more than normal moderation on our side, because we put a lot of effort into, I would say sounds is one that requires heavy moderation, where we have to have someone go listen to it to make sure it's okay. So those are really the only big fees. And if you're going to go make money on Roblox, like if you're selling items, then we take a cut of that. So we don't make money until you do typically. Can you keep developing a game after it's published? All the time, yeah. It's actually encouraged because you're never going to get it right the first time that you publish. It doesn't matter if it's a piece of software, if it's an app on your phone, if it's a game, something that's that's fine. So yeah, you're going to want to make something better. And then there's what's like called live ops. If you want people to keep coming back to your world and keep visiting, and you might make a seasonal change. Like if it's Christmas or if it's a holiday near you, or some sort of seasonal change, you might make all the trees white. You might have a spring version of your game. So there's all kinds of things. So to keep your world alive, then you're going to want to keep updating it. Is it hard? Everything is work. I would say whether or not it's hard can sometimes be an interesting question. Like sometimes things aren't going to work. And I say sometimes I just lose myself. Like I'll be working on like the worlds. I would say probably the canyon one, which was like one of my favorite things I've ever done because it's got bright colors and it was based on my favorite place and it was based off of like Star Wars, which was my favorite thing. Technically it was hard, but I would just blink and that time went by. Yeah, I would say it's fun work. It's one of those things you want to be like, it's work, but at the same time, it's amazing how fast and how like games can be hard, but that doesn't mean that they're not fun. You ever play like a level and maybe sometimes you get frustrated because you keep missing the jump or this monster keeps missing, coming at you, like, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth playing or that you don't want to keep coming back to it or you should just give up and you don't want to toss your controller. Sometimes you need to take a break, but that's you still want to come back and finish the game. All right, so we have a couple more minutes. Any suggestions on the first lesson? Yeah, I would say hang out and see what Matthew guys has for you. There's lots of different things you can do. So like this little terrain thing that I just did, I just made some terrain and like you can play with it. That's something I like to do a lot with people who are new, particularly if you're not used to working with like 3D space, or if you're not used to working with like a mouse and keyboard. That depends on the age of the student. Because that's one of the other cool things about Roblox. Like we have people who are pretty, young, middle school, who are working with Roblox Studio, so they're just learning how to click and double click and use a mouse. And then on the other hand, I'll probably be talking to university and grad students the next day who are doing really sophisticated things with it, and they're trying to actually solve real world problems or explain something like how oceans change over time depending upon heat. So it's all kinds of things you could do. All right. Any last questions in the last couple of minutes? Can you add more maps to pick in Studio? You mean like, can we add more templates or to start from? Is that what you mean? Well, I'm not sure if you mean. Yeah. So we have a variety of them. So it's funny, these last two are actually the two that my team works on. So these tend to change. We usually do like one or two a year. But yeah, I always say like you can take any of them, but like a lot of it is that we want you to make the world. We kind of don't want to give you guys too much because we want you guys to use your own creativity so that things can come out looking really unique. So we try to give you some starting ideas, like this pirate island is probably one of my favorite starting places. So, there's like one place that has lava, another place might have a giant city, but we want you to really come in and make this look like your neighborhood or, maybe your idea of what an alien planet looks like or something like that. All right. How do you update? Oh, so if I were to make a change, I was gonna say I would have to stop sharing for a second to make sure. But really, all I usually do, if you want to update, you just say publish to Roblox again, and you just see there's this little update existing game button. So this will be fine, yeah. So if I wanted to update any of my other games, and I'm not gonna do that right now because I don't want to overwrite them. I actually can overwrite best game. So if I were to click on best game that I just made, I can overwrite that. You do have to be aware if there are people in your world, it is going to shut down your servers potentially. So try to not do that, too often. But you can also you can just publish to Roblox, or you can save to Roblox. So you can save it so you have a file you're working on. Like if you're working on your holiday themed one, but you don't want to publish it yet, you can do that. So you sort of save to the cloud, and then when you publish it, that goes to everyone. Yeah. So SketchUp models, you could import anything that's an OBJ. So just export to OBJ, and then you can import that. Yeah. I'm gonna let Jane and Matthew handle any curriculum questions, unless there's something you want me to answer.
Oh, sure. Would you recommend the Roblox curriculum to K-5 graders? Yes. K-2 may be a little difficult because it involves some typing, but there's autocomplete that can help you through it. And you can also have students cut and paste code into the scripting area. So there will be some challenges, but it's doable. All right. I hope that answered the question. Well, thank you so much, Genevieve. That was wonderful. So next up, we're going to do something really exciting. So those of you who ever created anything on your own would probably know that there's a very special feeling when you create something and it works as intended, and it works with other people too. And next, we're going to do just that. So we have an amazing speaker, Matthew Chung, who will be leading us through creating your very first Roblox game, probably. So let me share my screen real quick just to show you what's going to happen next. All right, so here we go. And those of you who have not installed Roblox Studio, it might be a little too late for doing that right now, but if you would like to squeeze that in right now, go ahead. So the URL is roblox.com/create, and there's a big button in the center that will let you download the program. So here's Matthew. And some of you may recognize Matthew's voice from our popular YouTube videos. So Matthew Chung is a CS teacher at Livingston High School, New Jersey, and also the adjunct professor at Kean University. Matthew is the person who put together the free course that I'll show you later on at the end of the session. So make sure to have your Roblox Studio booted up. And Matthew, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, the stage is yours. I'm going to stop sharing now.
All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Mr. Chang or Matthew. So I'm a computer science teacher out here in New Jersey. And just to kind of get things started, to kind of pique your interest before we start coding, we're just going to I'm going to paste the link into the chat window for, oh, hi, Holly, of a game that we created. And when I start writing some code, you'll kind of see the interactions there. So if you're logged into Roblox, just go ahead and click on that play button over there. And my Roblox player is starting up. Let's see. Here we go. And let's see who's going to jump in with me. I'm going to hope that we all end up in the same server. Let's see. We've got other people coming in. Let's see. I did put 4 spawn points, so we should all be kind of jumping in at different places, perhaps. And you might notice that, we got some very interesting looking characters here. Oops. I'm really good at dying, unfortunately. Hobbies are very hard for me, but I do have fun programming them. So you might notice that, again, if you die, you'll end up at the different spawn points, and different things may happen when you interact with the blocks. And we'll kind of take a look at that coding in a little bit here. The middle point here is just kind of like our very generic ending point. We're just trying to get there. There are some spawn points when you kind of jump into it that bad things may happen. Or you might get some special powers and start jumping around somewhere. So I'll give you a couple minutes just to mess around with it a little bit. And while you're playing, just kind of think to yourself, kind of like the mechanics of how this programming might be working behind the scenes. And we'll take a look at that code in a few moments. All right, I see some people emoting. Oh, I see some people ending up on my red block. Yes, be careful. Don't go on the red block. Yes. Strange things may happen to you. Now, the fun thing is when you're like playing by yourself, when you're testing, it's like one thing. But then suddenly when you have a lot of people jumping into the game, it's like another kind of experience, which is kind of funny. I think and Genevieve could probably jump in and tell a little bit more about this, but there was a point where I think the server limit was like 20. And then I feel like only recently it went up to like 100.
So there hasn't been like a hard server limit for quite a while.
Okay.
I would say 100 is possible. It's usually set. It's really what your game can handle.
Okay. Because I feel like it used to be at 20, and then recently I was like, oh wow, I can just set up to like 100, like just like that. Because I remember there were times when I was trying it, and I had a bunch of people coming in, and we'd all end up on like different servers sometimes, and we'd try to like figure out where people were. But now it seems like everyone kind of is able to like I set it to 100 for this demo here, and then it looks like I think everyone's like, I think we're all kind of like together, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, as a developer, you can set that, and then when you buy private servers, you can set it.
Yeah. All right, I'm looking at the chat. That was my son. Your red block killed him. I didn't mean it. I mean, he kind of did it to himself. He did have to find out for himself what was going to happen. How do you change how many people are in a server? Yeah, so that's in like the settings for the game. After you go into roblox.com/create and then manage experience, I think that's where it is. And then you just kind of like set it there. Why can you jump?
Game settings,
please. In game settings. All right, Ryan says, why can you jump so high? That's because I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So again, just kind of think mechanic-wise, what happened. It was kind of like the character had some interaction with a part, and then something happened. In this case, like their jump height, just like I set it to go like really high. And at certain points, oh, this is a really great view. I'm seeing one person like jump up and down, like a lot over there having fun. So just kind of think to yourself, it's kind of like, I like to show students, this is like a really good example of conditionals. You know, students kind of wonder in computer science when they're like coding, like, when do we use conditionals? And I try to tell them that, you know, from my perspective, I feel kind of old some days, but like life is a whole bunch of conditional statements. It's like you do this, then this happens, you drive here, this happens. In a game, it's kind of like you do something and then something else happens. And in this case, it's kind of like you can make the humanoid change its characteristics, which again, we'll kind of see in a little bit. Can I repost the link? Sure. Okay, here's the link. Yeah, I'll show you that pattern in a little bit when I show you the coding. But I really like showing them. I feel like this is a really nice kind of like real world example for them with coding, because, you know, I feel like the math teacher in me, sometimes, you know, when teaching computer science, it's like you're trying to solve like a lot of math problems. But as Genevieve said, like the world is a lot bigger than that. You could do a lot other things. And like this, I feel like really appeals to students. When they see that, they're like, oh, okay. Now I start thinking like when I play a game, it's kind of like I'm interacting with something and then something happens. Chancellor says, what is your Roblox username? So I can join. I think you can just click on the link there. Or maybe you're, oh, someone's trying to push me around. You know, you almost pushed me off my own platform. Oops, look, I fell. That happens every now and then. Okay, now we'll change gears a little bit, and I'm going to, someone's already, look, I'm getting friends already. How fun. Okay, look, this is what Roblox is about. We're making friends. Okay, feel free to follow me, subscribe to my channel and the Popfizz channel. All right. Let's change some gears here. So I'm gonna close this off here, although I think some people may still keep playing. I'm just gonna close this window, and I'm gonna switch gears here to my presentation on Roblox Studio. So a couple things, as Jane mentioned, if you want to follow along with us, you should fire up Studio. When you fire up Studio, you should get a screen that kind of looks like this. I'll get there in a little bit as I kind of work my way through the presentation. But for now, I'll just kind of give a brief overview of Studio. Just like fast forward a little bit. All right, so kind of like computer science wise, I'll just go over some kind of major concepts that you're going to see inside of this code. Computer science teachers will know what I'm talking about. All of this is kind of like pretty generic. If you're new to coding, just kind of like think of these things as like conceptually. So kind of think of a function as kind of like encapsulating or like having like a block of code that typically you have like some specific purpose to do. So we're going to kind of look at very simple functions here or some Roblox functionality. Also kind of think to yourself that with functions, we're going to trigger something that's going to happen in the game. So kind of again, just kind of think of the demo that we just kind of played. We were kind of like jumping around our game. We kind of like, let's say, jumped on a part. Depending on which part we landed on, different things might happen during our game. Now, some other kind of computer science concepts that we're going to see are conditionals. So again, kind of think to yourself, I like to tell students, you make like decisions every day. Depending on your decisions, different things will happen. And it's also kind of a way to control code. So if something happens, something else will happen as well. And the way that we control this in computer science is through this concept called Boolean values, which are basically just true and false. It can only be like one thing or the other thing when interacting with the environment. So we're going to look at an if statement in a few slides. And kind of like between the if statement, we're going to kind of look at a block of code. In Lua, that's called a chunk. But I'll kind of like relate that to other programming languages that you might be familiar with. So again, just kind of going back to conditionals, that chunk of code is only executed if that condition is true or false. Sorry, is true. If it's false, then it won't, but if it's true, it will. All right, so this is kind of like the most basic example of a conditional. And you use this pattern a lot inside of Roblox if you're trying to get the humanoid or the character to interact with the environment. So it's just something like if humanoid, then, and kind of like in my very simple example here, this is out of a movie that part 4 is coming out in a few months. We're just going to print out only human. Okay, so if you're coming from a different programming language, this might look a little different than what you might be used to. So for example, if you're coming from the C++ or Java world, that then and end would be a curly brace, right? It'd be like this curly brace and curly brace. The developer of Lua originally was a programmer in Brazil. And I like to tell students that if you're lucky enough to, or have like a lot of inspiration to create your own language, you too can create anything you want and make your own rules. So for some reason, he decided to kind of, I feel, be very explicit when he was designing this language. So rather than go down the route as the other classical programming languages go with the curly braces, he went down this road of just being very explicit and using the words instead of the symbols that I think most of us are coming from. If you're coming from, let's say, Python, then this probably looks even stranger to you because at the end of an if, you have your condition, you have your colon there, and you wouldn't have this end, right? You just have this indented block of code. In Lua and in Roblox Studio, it kind of automatically indents your code, which is a really cool feature, but you don't have to. And so to kind of denote the ending of a block of code, again, you just put the word end. So I kind of tell students, just kind of think, again, if you're coming from the classical programming world, the then and end are the curly brace equivalents. Otherwise, it's kind of like, I think it's nice that they put the words there, and then that kind of tells you very explicitly where the start and end of the code block is. All right, so again, just kind of like think about the game that we just kind of like demoed a few moments ago. So a lot of you ran into these collisions. If you ended up in the middle, we kind of triggered some particles that kind of emitted the kind of like sparkle there. And so I'm going to show this code right now. So this is actually very basic code, which is kind of the building blocks of everything that you just kind of experienced there. So it just kind of reads like this. So we've got these parts. I'm going to show you the dragging out parts in a second. And the code, I think, reads really well. So it's kind of like we create this function. We call it on part touched. And then within it, for now, I just want to kind of show you a few things. I'm just going to print out the humanoid's body part that happens when you touch the block. And you can kind of get some ideas about, the games that you might have played before when you're kind of interacting with your environments, how Studio kind of can detect the different parts of the humanoid. And then kind of think to yourself like, oh, that's maybe like how like when the person touches something, something happens, or if they sit down or they run or something like that. So now I'm going to bring back Studio over here. So I'm just going to start off just kind of like using the base plate template over here, which I think is a nice starting point. And I'll just kind of point out some things. If you have, when you open it up for the first time, you might have a lot of different windows that might appear on your screen. I'm just going to close some of them off right now, just so that they're not kind of like in my way. So if there's anything on your left-hand side, let's say like the asset manager or the terrain editor, et cetera, just kind of close them off for now, just so that your screen kind of maximizes in the middle. And then on your right-hand side, just have the Explorer, which we'll be using, and then the Properties window, which is on the bottom right-hand corner. Now, I have this output window here. To get to the output window, which may or may not be on your screen, again, it kind of depends when you open up Studio for the first time, just click on View, and then up here, you'll see Output. Okay, just kind of like think to yourself, if you've used another programming language, this is kind of like an output window or a debug terminal, kind of like a nice way to kind of see these kind of like simple print statements, which will kind of give you ideas about what's kind of happening behind the scenes. This window, this output window, you wouldn't see that while you're playing a game from Roblox.com. This is more for like developers when you're developing something. Kind of like a nice way to just kind of, let's say, like output something, just to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes. So just kind of make sure you have that over here if you want to see the output. But we'll kind of take a look on my screen in a second here. So here I have just our very basic base plate here. This middle point over here is our spawn point. That's kind of like our starting point when we play our game. We all kind of like jump there. There's always like this part here by default. And up here, when you click on home, we've got all the most used items inside of Roblox Studio. I'm going to click on part right now. So when I click on part, the basic parts that are available are like the block, the sphere, the wedge, and cylinder. I'm just going to drag out a block for now. And I'm just going to drag it over here. So I just kind of like dragged out a part. Now I'm just going to click on scale. When I click on scale, you can resize the part as you might. So I'm just going to like make it a little bigger here and a little bigger over here. And I'm kind of like moving up and down here. And let's say I want to add some color. You can do that very easily. Just go up here on the top and click on color. And I'll just kind of like make it a very kind of loud red color for now. Okay. So now on the right-hand side, you'll notice that this part, which I just added, is now in the Explorer. Okay. And when I click on that particular part, I've got all of these properties. Now, just kind of like think to yourself, that with programming or manually is how I kind of did it just now, I started changing the characteristics of the part. Now, something to kind of like keep in mind when you're programming is that when you're interacting with, let's say, the part, any of these properties over here, you can change with programming. So again, just kind of think to yourself, someone posted in the chat window something about like, hey, why am I jumping so high? So just kind of think, I showed you conditionals there. It's kind of like when I touch that part, then suddenly something changed, let's say in the properties, either of the humanoid or the part itself. Some of you might have also experienced the part color changing colors when you kind of interact with it, or if you were unlucky enough to land on my kill block, that set the humanoid's health to 0, and that's why you died in the game. So now let's like kind of like look at that script that I showed you a few moments ago. So just kind of tap on part, and after you tap on part, there's going to be this plus button over here. Now, when you click on the plus button, you notice that there's a lot of different things you can do here. We're just going to add a script. So for me, I have to kind of like start typing in script. Your screen may look a little different. And you might just be able to just like click on script there. So right underneath that part, you'll have this script here. And you'll notice that by default, whenever you add a script in Studio, you'll get this message here, which is a very classic message, which is hello world. And I'll just run our world really quickly here, just to kind of show you. So when I click on the play button, notice down here in our output, we've got that message, hello world. Okay, so that's like kind of like our starting point here. Now I'm going to edit our code. So I'm going to stop playing this for a second. So do make sure you have to like stop your game, edit your code, stop your game, kind of like how you would do with classical programming. And again, now I'm going to write my script here. I'm going to paste it in the chat window in a moment so that you can also kind of try it out for yourself. So I've got my variable there, which I'm calling part. Lua has this keyword reserve word called local, kind of meaning that it's like a local variable. And I'm now saying local function, and I have my on part touched. And I'm going to pass an other part. Kind of think of that as the interaction between one part and another part. And here, I'm just going to kind of like have an output here so you can see like what happens when our humanoid's going to touch these two different parts in Studio, kind of like interact with each other. Like what exactly is happening behind the scenes? All right, so I've got this message here, other part dot name, and now I'm going to connect the part and the function together. On part touched. Okay, so you do need this last line of code here. This kind of connects that part with the function, and I'm going to click on play. And if all goes well, let's take a look here. I should get a lot of messages, so it might be hard to see, but I've got all this output now. Now, very specifically, if you look, Studio actually detects like what part of the humanoid is touching the part that I just created. Now, I'm going to go ahead and paste that code into the chat window. So again, feel free to, if you've been following along and edit a part and edit a script, just copy and paste that code into your script, and then just go ahead and play it. And then you should get, if you've got the output window instead of Studio, you'll kind of see all of this output over here. All right, now, kind of like with this pattern, I'll go back to my window over here. With this pattern, we can actually do a lot. This pattern you used when you played the game kind of like reoccurs again and again. Just kind of think like game-wise, when you're playing a game, you're kind of interacting with the environment. And now inside of Studio, when you add, let's say, more parts, you can do all sorts of different things. So I'm going to show you that kill block that some of you kind of like collided with. So we're going to now modify the code just a little bit. Rather than outputting what part of the human it's touching, we're going to change that properties, like I mentioned before, of the part, in this case, the humanoid. We're going to change its health to 0. Okay, so actually the script's going to look very similar. We're just going to add a little bit to it over here. So I'm just going to take away this code, and I'm going to add a little bit different code here now. So I'm going to say local part parent equal other part parent. All right. And then I'm going to say local humanoid. And this might be a lot to type. And I'm just going to point out that things are case sensitive here, so do be careful about that. Find first child, which is a humanoid. So this is detecting, let me make this a little smaller here. Humanoid, this is detecting if the part that is going to touch our part is actually a humanoid. And then we're going to use that conditional that we just saw before, this pattern of the part touching the humanoid. We're going to say if humanoid, then, okay, we're just going to say humanoid dot health equals 0. Okay, now, if you're a computer science teacher, you might notice here, this is like our dot notation. You're coming from Python or Java. And again, all we're doing is just setting the property of our humanoid to 0. Okay. I do see this. Ooh, I think I have a typo. I meant that. Okay. Part parent. Part. See, when I see the red line, I'm like, wait, what did I type that's like wrong here? Part. Oops. See, I also tell students I make typos all the time. But Studio happens to red underline it so I can see that I'm doing something wrong. All right, I think this works. If all goes well, let's take a look here. I'm gonna click on the play button, and just like our demo game, let's see what happens. I'm gonna be brave. I'm scared though, so let's see what's gonna happen here. Oh, and I got our oof. And that's basically the kill script. That's really all it is. I'm gonna paste that into the chat window right now. So feel free, you can overwrite that code that I previously gave. So again, all this is doing is just using that pattern of our if humanoid, then we do something. Okay, we just kind of set our humanoid health to 0. All right. I'm curious if anyone has been able to try this at home. Let me take a look at the chat window. Okay, Ryan says, can't seem to copy from the chat window. Uh-oh.
Let me create a Google Doc and then paste that in there and share that with you.
You know, when we talk about like age groups of students, you know, I do think that this coding, again, if you're a computer science teacher, you already start recognizing things like what goes into this, right? So first, if you're getting into the programming world, it's like, I just showed you variables. I just showed you functions. I just showed you functions with parameters. And then I showed you an object. And the object's property was being changed within a conditional, right? So if you think like sequence-wise, if you wanted to teach students coding, like you see like what goes into it there. And that last part there, right? You have a function that's like connecting. So that's like a whole other world there. Yeah. Okay, Ryan says the kill block worked. Great. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you know, the computer science teacher in me again, I always think also like sequence of like how this works for students, right? But you know, I feel also that when they start seeing it, especially because they play these games, right? Like then they start thinking like, oh, wait a minute, okay, now I start seeing like this is where the conditional is. It's like behind the scenes. I think they just kind of like play games. They don't really think about what goes on mechanically. And then the computer science teacher in me is always thinking like, well, how can I teach this to them exactly? So, all right. Would anyone like me to show an additional example? I know I've showed like for the computer science teachers. I think you appreciate what I just like the code there. Don says I teach in middle school. Okay, you want to see more? Okay, I do have another script too. Also very similar to what I just did. Let me just go over here. So this is another part that you kind of interacted with. You might have noticed that when you landed on one of the particular blocks, the block changed colors. And again, kind of like what I said before, on that right-hand side, oops, in Studio with the properties, I'm just going to go back there in a second here. Let me just add another part just to demo this. So I've got like this other part here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Just give me a second. And let me change this to a different color just so that we can kind of distinguish the two here. And I'm just going to tap on this here. So on the right-hand side, you see all the properties. And what I like to tell students is that, you know, you could change these properties. And when you're working with Studio, you can kind of change them manually. But then when you're playing a game, you're playing your game that you create, you can change all of these properties like with coding, right? Because they're all objects. You just change properties. So let's take a look at another script here. So I'm just going to, again, I clicked on part, I clicked on script over here. And let me just, I'm going to make my life a little bit easier because the pattern is all about the same. So I just copied and pasted my code from before. And this time around, I'm going to change this line here. So again, I showed you the kill block. And now I'm going to show when I touch this part, I'm going to change one of the properties and I'll just change the brick color. Also, nice thing about Studio, it has this autocomplete. So tab is your friend. And it even picks up the colors, which is cool. So I'm going to change the dark blue now. So the only line of code I changed here was, before it was setting my humanoid health to 0. Now I'm going to change the part property, the brick color, to a different color. Okay, so I clicked on play. And again, the yellow one, if all goes well, if I tap on it, once I get on it, once I interact with it, again, we're using that pattern of if humanoid, now that property changed over there. All right, so I'm going to paste this into the chat window. Although Jane, I guess you can put that in the Google Doc. All right. Yeah, so with that pattern, I mean, you can really do a lot. In fact, that's the pattern that when you played the game, I just like changed different things. I didn't get into the terrain editor as Genevieve showed. Terrain editor is really cool too. Like that you can create like all sorts of different landscapes to complement your game. All right. Does anyone have any questions? How do you make it repeat? Do you mean like, do you want like to duplicate the part? Is that what you mean by repeat? Because inside of Studio, if you click on that particular part, I have to stop it here. You can actually just like, you can do it two ways. You can do it this way. You can tap on the part over here and you can do the usual Control-C, Control-V. That actually duplicates the part with exactly the same properties and script attached. So notice here, like, so that's actually the same.
Sorry to interrupt there. So the
Sorry.
question seems to be, how do you make it change to blue from yellow and then back to blue again?
Oh, okay. If you want to do that, okay, let me go back to the script here. I guess you can do it different ways. You can like, oops. I'm just adding like a wait here. So it's gonna wait approximately 2 seconds. And then I'm gonna change it back to yellow. So let me try that. I think this will change it back. Let's see. Okay. Oh wait, it changed to gray. Why did it change to gray? Did I not spell yellow right? Well, let me go back. I thought it should go back to yellow. Not sure why it turned gray. That was interesting. Yellow. Isn't yellow? Hey, wait, my autocomplete didn't go. Uh-oh. Wait, let me click on stop. Hold on a sec. Is there like a special yellow that I don't know about? Yellow. What was my original color? Hold on. Wait, was my color yellow? Oh wait, I duplicated a red block. Oops. I think I was editing the wrong script. Hold on a sec. Was it this script that I was editing? Yellow. Dark blue yellow? Let's try that. For some reason it went back to gray. Wait, is this really yellow? Hold on. Stop. What color did
Matthew, so Roland Cole mentioned in the chat window that yellow isn't a name of a brick color like you guessed.
It's actually new yeller. I'm looking at it here. I'm going like, how did they do this? Oh, it's new yeller. That's a good one. New. Oh, see, I was wondering why I was like, why is the autocomplete like not working there? Okay, let's try that. New yeller. I would not have figured that out if I didn't go into properties. Yep, it changed back. So I think it went back to gray because yellow's not a color. It's new yeller. Yeah. It's actually, I'm going to paste it in the chat window. It's yeller. Yeah. So I just added this this wait here. So like it changed it for like 2 seconds and it changed it back. All right. Any other questions? Roblox has some very unique colors. I encourage you to look at the properties. Okay, I'm working with seniors and they've enjoyed the design process. We are moving to coding on Monday. Do you have videos for us to access if we have coding issues? Yeah, so it's on the website. We have both the lessons and the videos.
Yes.
I'm like narrating it. I do think the hard thing is, you know, the computer science teacher in me is always kind of amazed at all the different things that can go wrong when coding. It never ceases to surprise me. So that is a hard thing to figure out sometimes. Even myself, you saw me struggle with yellow, which was kind of funny because there's new yeller. And I was like staring at that going like, wait a minute, I need to go back into properties to actually find the color because I didn't realize it was yeller. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So if they're familiar with objects, then this kind of notation here, I think will be like intuitive to them. Otherwise, if you never did objects, you wouldn't know about the dot notation. But this is pretty good. The main thing I would emphasize if you're coming from Java or CSA is that again, like with the curly braces, now it's like very explicit. The Lua inventor went this route of like then and end. So he replaced like the symbols with the words is what I try to emphasize to students. And if they're coming from Python, you know, the indentation is not required. Studio does it for you, of course, which is nice. But you know, coding style wise, I would I would try to keep it indented appropriately. Otherwise it starts getting like, once you get a lot of code, it's like pretty messy. All right, I'll hand it back over to Jane now.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew. So those of you who felt that, the coding part was a little overwhelming, no worries. Normally, we would spend multiple lessons to get here. And we have a course ready for you so that you can actually follow along at your own pace and, review things as many times as you like, test things out. And there's a lot more content than some of the videos that we have in the actual course. And I'll show you where to access that. So for teachers, we have this course right here, and I will share this link. And we actually have a whole bunch here for grades 6 to 12, specifically for Popfizz Computer Science. And here's the Roblox Game Development course. So if you're a teacher, you can try out this course for free, enroll your students, and also add your own content if you like to, add quizzes if you like to, use the full features on Popfizz. And here is the link. And for the students, if you want to create your own games using this course, we actually have a special link for that, and I'll share that with you in a minute. So this is the course for the teachers. And then here's a link for the students to enroll right away and get started. So those are all plugged into the chat window. So please take a look. And also we have a YouTube channel that's right here. So if you want to just follow along the videos, and that's fine for you, here is that link. And we have a 10 video series right now, and we will be adding more in the near future. All right, so now the last bit I wanted to show you here is, let's say that you follow along the course, and then you set up your studio, right? Go through all of this here. You learn to use the command line to type in your code, and then you figure out how to move around, work with the camera and the parts, and also work with the scripts like what we've done today. But we're starting with something very basic. We'll build up to the level where we can create all these different special blocks. And then here it is, we also will learn how to teleport your humanoid, which is an awesome feature to have in your game. And then we're going to finalize our obby and perhaps work with a terrain editor where it's going to make your game super interesting and lush, if you'd like to. And there are also assets that you can use. It's Halloween, so you can maybe pull in a couple of zombies in your game if you'd like to. So that's also possible. And once you're done with your game, make sure to share it with your friends so they can explore, play around, and submit it to this competition that we're hosting here. And we had a question at the very beginning of the session asking what the prize is. So yep, here is the prize. You can win a special Roblox item. It's this golden hat here with the Roblox mark. It's a fedora, looking super fancy. You cannot buy this. It's a special item that you can only get through a Roblox education team. And we'll also give you the official Roblox guide ebook. And this will give you step-by-step instructions to build a lot of things. And then we'll give you Roblox merch, which includes toys, shirts, and stuff like that. And then if you are interested, we will also be able to offer a paid internship with Popfizz. It's going to be remote. And then to participate, we would like to get your game link by November 1st, along with a very short video that explains or highlights just some of the features that you're proud of. So that is due November 1st. And then the students who can participate, we would recommend them to be in grades 2 through 12. And you can also participate in a group if you'd like to. And the basic instructions, it's all in that course. So just follow along, and then make sure to add your own stuff in there too. And so here are the important dates. November 1st is when the submission is due, and then the winners will be announced on the 8th, the following week. And then the video that we've recorded today will be shared right after this. And if you have any questions regarding the contest, feel free to email us at hello@popfizz.io. So that is in the chat window. And if there are no other questions, we will wrap up here. And I hope you have a very happy time coding. And I can't wait to see what you create. All righty, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.